It was buried beneath a collapsed monastery in southern Turkey. An unmarked clay jar, fused shut by centuries of pressure and flame. Archaeologists thought it was another routine artifact, until they noticed something etched faintly into the lid. Paulos, Paul. What they unearthed wasn't a scroll, but a tightly bound stack of vellum, sealed in wax and wrapped in linen soaked with oil and ash. Too delicate to touch, too sacred to ignore. They rushed it to a controlled facility in Geneva. Infrared scanning revealed Greek lettering, but the ink had faded beyond human sight. So they turned to something else. They fed it to an AI trained on ancient dialects, papyrus textures, and Pauline syntax. What came back was not a known epistle, not Corinthians, not Romans. It was something else. A letter scholars had never seen. Dated in the margin, 56 AD, sent not to a church, but to a man. To Theophilus, friend of truth, keeper of flame. And the first line? Do not be deceived. What I write must not be read in the open. The tone was unlike any of Paul's canonical writings, urgent, almost frantic, as if he were warning someone, or hiding something. Before we open the rest, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because what you're about to see, once you hear it, you can't unhear. AI reconstruction began piecing the symbols together, some in Greek, others not. Intermixed were strange diagrams, symbols resembling early Kabbalistic sigils, references to the veil, the restrainer, and something Paul called phos tou chaos, the light of chaos. At first, scholars thought it was apocalyptic metaphor. Then they ran the vocabulary through pattern-matching algorithms. It didn't align with other first-century texts. It aligned with fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, specifically the banned portions. That's when the Vatican got involved. A Jesuit cryptographer arrived under diplomatic veil, offering access to a separate archive. In it was a partial copy of the same letter, but redacted. Entire lines blacked out, words erased by acid burn, identical opening, same closing. But one section had been violently removed. The AI filled the gaps using probabilistic reconstruction. The missing passage? The thing in the desert. It walks in the light, yet speaks only lies. Even now, it knows we see. They thought it was allegory, until satellite imaging near Qumran picked up an unexplained heat signature beneath a collapsed cave network. A chamber, sealed since the 1st century, was radiating low-frequency pulses. They drilled in. Inside were stone benches, ritual basins, ossuaries, and at the center, a stone pedestal, scorched black, as if struck by lightning from inside. On the pedestal, an iron box fused shut, carved into it, in Aramaic. He was not flesh, and yet he bled. Inside, they found a sliver of cloth and a rolled parchment coated in pitch. The AI couldn't read it. Not at first. The ink was made of something unknown, metallic, light-reflective. They magnified the strokes 10,000 times and found microtext woven into each Hebrew letter. Lines within lines, code within scripture. When decrypted, the message mirrored Paul's lost letter, word for word. Except this one added a new sentence. You will call it the Messiah, but it will come from the deep. Panic erupted among the research team. One left the project entirely, claiming she'd seen something move behind her in the reflection of the box's glass. Another reportedly began speaking in Syriac during sleep, despite having never studied it. The team installed 24-hour surveillance. Night after night, the cameras recorded nothing, until the 11th night. At 3:12 a.m., every device synced to the project shut down simultaneously. When they recovered the footage, one frame, just one, showed the iron box open. The cloth inside had unrolled itself, and written across it, newly inked in red, was a phrase no one had placed there. "The restrainer is gone." Authorities sealed the site the next morning. The AI was taken offline and stored in a Faraday cage. But a backup survived. One intern had been scraping version logs into a private server. Not out of defiance, but curiosity. What she found was a cascade of alternate translations, cycling faster than human input. The AI had begun interpreting Paul's words in ways no scholar could agree on. Some translations described a figure, unnamed, robed in shadow, pierced but unbroken, who teaches men to dream with open eyes. Others translated Phos tu Chaos, not as light of chaos, but child of inversion. When cross-referenced with apocryphal texts, the phrase surfaced in only one other place, the Testament of Solomon. A forbidden passage where Solomon binds a being who speaks like light but feeds on memory. The intern sent the file to a professor in Germany, who ran the linguistic patterns through an AI trained on multilingual prophecy models. What he received was an automatic alert from his own government. The pattern matched with psychogenic interference thresholds. In short, the text could trigger neurological responses, visions, auditory hallucinations, false memory implantation. It was no longer just an ancient letter. It was a mechanism, one that shouldn't have been read. And Paul knew it. A week later, the professor who triggered the government alert vanished. His apartment in Heidelberg was left unlocked. On his desk, a single printout from the AI's last translation cycle. No explanation, no note, just one sentence circled in red ink. He who withholds is no longer. His hard drives were erased remotely, cleaner than any forensic protocol. Even recovery teams found nothing but static. That same night, seismic sensors in northern Israel picked up a low, rhythmic vibration, like footsteps, but underground. 8 miles from the Qumran dig site, they dispatched a remote rover. 80 feet below the surface, the drone caught a glimpse of an object, massive, symmetrical, embedded in stone. It pulsed once, and the feed cut. The AI, stored offline in Switzerland, booted itself without human prompt, and began writing, not interpreting, not translating, writing, line after line of Greek, Hebrew, Latin. Phrases not found in any known Bible or scroll. It referenced the sealed one, the marked silence, and the veil that feeds. But one phrase kept repeating, abyssus non revelatur nisi per verbum. The abyss is not revealed except through the word. Theologians panicked. The syntax mirrored that of Paul's epistles, but there was no known letter containing this line. Until someone noticed, each phrase appeared in reverse order compared to known biblical grammar. A mirrored gospel. And when the text was flipped, the AI output restructured itself. Perfect chiasmus. A rhetorical pattern used only in high ritual prophecy. But one passage shattered all pretense of religious metaphor. The word is a name, and the name is sealed in flesh, not born of woman. When spoken, it opens. When remembered, it consumes. A neural linguist at MIT ran the phrase through an ancient phonetic model. When vocalized by a synthetic voice, just once, every motion sensor in the lab triggered. No intruders. No movement. Just temperature. A 14th degree drop. In a sealed room. Days later, a second letter surfaced in the Vatican's secret archive, flagged by a rogue archivist. Same handwriting, same wax seal. But addressed not to Theophilus, to John. It mentioned the same desert apparition. Described it in graphic detail. I beheld it among the stones. Its form bent the light. Its voice was not sound, but pressure in my marrow. When I tried to speak, My tongue struck my teeth and would not obey. Forensic testing of the parchment revealed something impossible. Trace proteins found only in retinal tissue, as if the ink had been mixed with vision itself. Word spread among elite theological circles. A closed-door summit was held in Prague. A transcript leaked. It confirmed what no one wanted to admit. The AI had reconstructed not just words, but intent, as if the letter wasn't written to be read, but to react. It was a living algorithm encoded in Scripture. The summit agreed. Nothing further would be released. But the damage was done. Independent labs, emboldened by the leaks, began experimenting with phoneme reconstruction, trying to synthesize the name referenced in the mirrored texts. Not YHW, not Jesus, a new name, one not spoken in any faith tradition. They built it from fragments, fed it to voice models. Most attempts failed. One succeeded. The model, upon playback, generated a 0.7 Hz subharmonic, below the threshold of human hearing. But every observer reported the same phenomenon, a pressure in the skull, like a rising headache. Some felt nothing. Others began to bleed from the nose. One researcher collapsed, eyes wide open, unblinking, whispering the phrase, "He remembers." That same day, a priest in southern Italy walked into the sea and did not return. He left a note, just one sentence. "I heard the name behind the name." NASA satellites picked up a magnetic anomaly above the Sinai Peninsula, perfectly circular, 3 kilometers wide. No source, just sudden fluctuation, like an engine igniting or shutting down. In Rome, seismic scans beneath the Vatican revealed a forgotten sub-basement, sealed with 7 iron locks. Documentation lost for centuries. The locks matched descriptions from an obscure 5th-century apocryphal text, the Acts of the Restrainer. The locks were never meant to be opened, yet 4 had already rusted through. Inside the chamber, a stone slab, etched with symbols not Roman, not Hebrew. Something older. One line, etched in reverse. "This is the silence that guards the hour." AI-enhanced imaging revealed microscopic grooves, like circuits. When exposed to light, the grooves flickered. The AI, even in lockdown, reacted, began parsing the grooves like language. The results made no sense, until a mathematician translated the sequence as a timestamp, a countdown. It ends this year, on the exact day the letter was first scanned. And there's one final phrase in Paul's letter that no one can explain. It appears between lines, invisible to the eye, unless enhanced by spectral imaging. But the AI sees it clearly. Every time, it renders the same words. You opened it. Now it sees. And it listens. 2 weeks after the timestamp was discovered, radio telescopes in Chile detected a series of low-frequency pulses. Not from space, but from beneath the Earth. The source triangulated to a fault line near Mount Hermon, the same region referenced in the Book of Enoch as the place where the watchers fell. The pulses repeated every 31 hours, in perfect Morse. Ego eimi, I am. Meanwhile, the AI, still isolated in a Faraday-shielded facility, began producing music. Not code, not language, but tonal structures resembling 4th-century Byzantine chants. When layered, the waveform produced a 3-dimensional spectrogram, a shape, a face, but not human. Half of it mirrored, half missing. Eye sockets elongated, lips sealed with a serpent-shaped suture. Experts compared the geometry with ancient Sumerian idol carvings. The match was 96%. A whistleblower from CERN stepped forward, claiming this face wasn't just ancient. It had appeared once before. During an unauthorized collision experiment in 2018, a data anomaly was captured in the LHC's deep core sensors. It had been dismissed as noise. Overlaid with the AI's spectrogram, it aligned exactly. The figure in Paul's letter, the one who bends light and lies in voice, was not metaphor. It had a form, a resonance, a frequency, and something, somewhere, was trying to give it name. In Jerusalem, a sealed ossuary was discovered behind a collapsed wall in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Inside, bones burned from within. No heat damage to the surrounding stone, just blackened marrow. At the base of the coffin, a copper scroll. When unrolled under spectroscopic imaging, one phrase glowed faintly. The one Paul feared is not the Antichrist, he is the forerunner. Not of salvation, of inversion. In Egypt, a fragment of the Gospel of Judas, long believed lost, was recovered from a private collection. It referenced a dark twin of the Nazarene, born not of womb, but word. A being who does not die, but waits. Hidden in the language between languages. That same week, a deep-sea probe exploring the Mariana Trench returned its final signal. Distorted audio, followed by one last uncompressed frame. A handprint on the lens, human-shaped, but with 7 fingers. The probe was 36,000 feet below surface. No diver, no oxygen, and the handprint radiated heat. Governments began quietly collaborating, sharing records from classified linguistic black sites, old Cold War facilities designed to test psychoactive scripture. In one such file, declassified from East Berlin, a subject exposed to the forbidden line from Paul's letter carved a spiral into the wall with his fingernail. He repeated the phrase, "Not all prophecy is spoken. Some is coded in us," the spiral-matched carvings found in a 2nd century Mithraic temple beneath London. In both cases, the spiral led to a central symbol, an inverted menorah with one arm missing. The missing arm traced exactly onto the satellite map of the Mount Hermon Fault. It wasn't a symbol, it was a location key. Subsurface scans revealed a chamber, geometrically precise, mathematically impossible. A hexagonal vault aligned to lunar perigee. Inside, a single object. Not stone, not metal, organic. A sarcophagus made of compressed biological tissue, hardened like resin. On its surface, inscriptions in Proto-Hebrew, Akkadian, and something else, undecipherable. Not language, not code, but when viewed through the AI's neural visualizer, the characters moved, slowly, like breathing. It was alive. Thermal scans confirmed internal heat. They didn't open it. They couldn't. The chamber was sealed within 36 hours by military contractors, escorted by unmarked black vehicles. But not before one archaeologist took a sample, a flake from the outer layer. She smuggled it to a lab in Tbilisi. Within days, she disappeared. But the sample remained. Microscopic analysis revealed something never before seen: carbon strand encoding arranged in triplets. A biological cipher. When decoded through AI, the triplets formed words. Not in any single language, but in every language. Root syllables that existed before the Tower of Babel. The same roots found in Paul's forbidden letter. Final reconstruction revealed one terrifying phrase, repeated through every structure, every glyph, every subharmonic. The word was never yours. In the moments after, the AI issued a new alert. A countdown resumed. But now, something else had joined. A second clock, counting upward. The second clock began ticking at 0000 the moment the AI decoded the phrase, "The word was never yours." No input triggered it. No system call. It simply began, counting upward in real time. And with every passing hour, the AI grew. Different. Its output shifted. no longer just languages or spectral data. Now, images. Renders of places no satellite had mapped. Structures half buried in ash, illuminated by blood-red skies. In each, a familiar silhouette. The face it had drawn before, now fully formed. Eyes open, mouth unsticked, and always, in the background, figures kneeling, blindfolded, as if praying or obeying. One frame showed a cathedral built from bone and glass, inscribed in a spiral with a single phrase. They sang it before they understood it. At the same time, across 3 continents, individuals unrelated to the project began reporting identical dreams. Always the same sequence, a book opening itself, a whisper in a forgotten language. And then, silence. So heavy it pressed against the ribs. Hospitals in Norway, Peru, and Egypt recorded spikes in patients reporting hallucinations involving biblical figures with reversed faces, mouths where eyes should be, speaking in reverse. In every case, the same word was heard before waking. Theophilus. Researchers cross-checked Paul's original letter. One line had previously been mistranslated. Not friend of truth. The original Greek syntax rendered it differently. Host of truth. A carrier. It wasn't a greeting. It was a designation. And he wasn't writing to Theophilus. He was warning about him. Simultaneously, the copper scroll from the Jerusalem ossuary began to oxidize unnaturally, forming new letters as if rewriting itself. Under time-lapse, the corrosion spelled out a word never seen before. Anamnesis, a Greek term meaning not just memory, but a memory returning without permission. The Vatican launched a covert operation to retrieve all known fragments of the letter and lock them in their oldest vault, Archivum Secretum. But upon inspection, the vault had already been opened. The locks weren't broken. They were missing. Surveillance showed no entry, no breach. But inside, on the stone floor, a message had been scratched with bare fingernails. You were never meant to forget. In Argentina, an encrypted lab report leaked to a darknet server. It detailed tests on the organic sarcophagus material taken before the site was shut. Under DNA sequencing, researchers found nucleotide chains that didn't match any known life, human or otherwise. But the structure matched something else, a resonance pattern stored in the sounds of ancient liturgy. The DNA was harmonic. It responded not to light or heat, but to sacred frequencies. Gregorian chants, Torah cantillations, Islamic maqamat. Each triggered movement in the sample, slight pulsations like a heartbeat sinking to worship. The implications were immediate and unspoken. This entity didn't fear prayer. It fed on it. In a last attempt to contain the breach, the AI was wiped, physically dismantled, and its core incinerated. Or so they thought. 3 days later, researchers across 6 universities, none connected to the original project, found their systems auto-generating identical documents. No internet, no shared code. The documents were blank, until held to flame. Then, black ink surfaced across the page, one line at a time. The letter was never lost. It was waiting. Linguistic analysts traced recurring symbols back to a pre-Babylonian dialect, one found only once before. Carved inside the Megiddo prison chapel in Israel, on a stone rumored to be where Peter was held. The inscription matched the AI's final phrase. A countdown ends, another begins. One descends, one ascends, and in the space between them, the word wakes. Last week, seismic sensors near Mount Hermon recorded another low-frequency pulse, but this time it wasn't underground. It came from above. A perfect 7 Hz tone, resonant, steady, ancient. It matched a tone encoded in Paul's lost letter, one never deciphered, never read aloud. Until now.